Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining the AXS Google Hangout. Today we're talking about giving back. And the intention about this Google Hangout is to stop. We usually do Google Hangouts on marketing and promotions and how to get yourself out there. And today this Google Hangout is more about getting you, turning yourself from being self-focused in terms of focusing on your marketing, how can you get more clients, and really stopping and thinking, how can we use our trade to give back to the community. We're all artists. We all use our trade to visually communicate to people. We want to connect with people. And this is a way we can actually start to connect with people. And I do believe energetically if we shift that focus to always being inward focused, I think we as a community can really start to see a shift. And I think professionally you can see a shift in yourself because you're connecting with people on a different level and using your art to communicate from a different place. So today I have Sioux Nesi and Michael Weschler to talk about their own experiences giving back, and I hope that their experiences and their advice can really inspire you to find a way to give back through your own community. So thank you guys for joining us. So first, Michael, introduce yourself. Tell me about your nonprofit that you're associated with and a little bit about it and what motivated you to get started with them.
Sure. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Yeah. So every year I try to do at least one or two pro bono projects, and from time to time I work with some of the same people. Sometimes the organizations collaborate. So in this case, I had been doing a lot with Flashes of Hope and the Heart Gallery in New York, and where we help the kids in foster care get adopted, and we do these huge prints in Penn Station. So basically the city of New York reached out to them, who in turn reached out to me. Lori, who's the director there, she called me and asked me if I wanted to help with the city and the Department of Homeless Services, trying to do this project that basically Paris had done, essentially, and where they gave cameras to a certain group of homeless individuals and got them to produce art, and it worked fantastically for Paris. So there was an article in the New York Times, and I think basically the city got called out because the writer said that's great that it happened in Paris, but it would never happen in New York. So essentially that's what happened. The director at DHS called Lori, and then Lori called me and 4 other photographers to mentor a group of homeless people, and it sounds like impossible at first, but we figured it out. It was very grassroots, and it was sort of like the camera was this bridge to communicate. You mentioned communication, and that's what we do, and messaging, but we don't often get a chance to use photography as this vehicle to reach people that wouldn't be reached normally. So it was really fantastic, and it's really just started. It's only been about 6 months, and we've gotten a huge amount of press, national media, actually international now. So it's still ongoing. The city wants to expand it. We were at City Hall the other day, and it's really exciting. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Sue, talk to me about, introduce yourself, tell us about the nonprofit you're associated with and what motivated you to get involved.
I'm Sioux Nesi, and I'm in Brooklyn, New York right now, and basically I'm working with, it's really a movement that partners with several nonprofits for about over 3 years. It's an organization that I work with called Glam for Good, and it is it was started by Mary Alice Stevenson, who is a fashion and beauty expert, and she basically decided that she wanted to use her expertise and her art of glamming human beings for some good. And basically I was inspired by her and have traveled and worked with so many different nonprofit organizations like Make-A-Wish, Grace Centers of Hope in Detroit, where basically brands and a whole team sort of gives their time to empower women. It's basically focused on women and empowering women through fashion and beauty and photography, and when you're in like a career in an industry like fashion photography, you get to the point where you really want to see where and how you can make this, be effective in a empowering situation. And as we know, women love to be beautiful. So basically, we bring beauty and glamour to lots of women and young girls, teens, a lot of teens, and a lot of women in very, very difficult situations. Basically, it's like making them feel empowered by being the center of attention, being primped, and being treated like, and somebody, basically just being treated like
a human being.
Yeah, a human being, but a woman, a girl, because all women want to feel pretty,
Yeah.
and it makes them feel better about themselves. So basically, yeah, the mission is to take this crazy fashion glamour concept and really make it empowering for women. So that's what we do.
Well, I mean, you guys are really at two ends of the spectrum, right?
I know. It's hilarious.
But I think that's the important thing, and that's why I asked both of you to join, because I think your diversity and the approach, and everybody kind of always thinks it tends to go more towards Michael's end of really hard documentary or showing the hearts and souls, and it's not. And you guys didn't know this starting into it, but I am so. I've always been about giving back. I used to be the president of Dress for Success Greater Orlando, so I understand. And it was kind of about fashion, giving back, but it was about also helping women who struggled through life. I had an executive woman who was a CFO lose her job and actually came back up, and it was really eye-opening to me that any woman of any demographics, of any color, race, can have these downfalls. So I really want to be able to help photographers start to see what other ways can we give back. So let's start with our questions. Let's see if we can. The intention is to inspire every artist that is listening to have that moment, because I think we've all had that moment in our head of like, gosh, I know I need to give back, but I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough money, or I don't know if I'm creative enough, or I don't know, I'm not passionate about that. Like, how to really uncover that passion and just kind of go forward. So my first question is going to be for Michael. What are ways that you think our community or an individual artist can use their trade to give back? Like, can you give other examples of non-monetary donations that they can give back through their art?
Yeah, absolutely. I think oftentimes, artists underestimate the value of their work, and photography especially is what we're using more than ever now, right? I mean, everybody's a photographer. So it is hard to stand out, but I think if you do compelling work that feels authentic and reaches people, I think that's really what the Heart Gallery sort of is about. It's pulling on those heartstrings. So we went into this project. We all have these stereotypes about homeless people, and so you have to really open yourself up to the possibility that maybe that's not actually accurate. And I think a lot of New Yorkers are really frustrated with the street people that are out there, and there's a lot of professional beggars, and there's a whole range that we are confronted with every day. But I met some really articulate homeless people in New York. One guy has a master's in English from Harvard. Through a series of events that happened to him back in the 90s, he ended up on the streets. But he's in transitional housing now. Another individual, went to ASU and basketball scholarship and family and just not mental illness, not drugs and alcohol, no substance abuse, just kind of slipped through the cracks after, a bad divorce and one paycheck away kind of a thing. But it's interesting because he was well dressed, and you mentioned the glamour thing. It was very unexpected that he would be so articulate and put together and really kind of an ambassador to these other groups of people. It's really not one group when you say the homeless, because a lot of them actually want to contribute. They want to create. They want to have a dialogue, but we don't have really good tools. And so in a way, that's what the photography became. It became this conduit, or and I was sort of just in the middle of the liaison, if you will. And you just can't deny the power of the images that were created. And really simply, that's today's communication. So
it is.
The city really learned a lot through this new dialogue, and they want to continue it. And it's it's just incredible because it reached them. At the beginning, he was skeptical. So, for example, one of the four guys that I mentored, he said, "Oh, my friends told me not to come here, not to trust you guys, that we were going to be exploited and all of this." So he really kind of had a bad attitude about the project. And I said, "Look, man, here's a really expensive camera." I put it in his hands and I said, "You can do whatever you want with it, and we're not really asking anything from you except to create." And that really reached them because they don't have that. Their voice isn't heard, right? So they don't have. Some of them, have trouble with literacy and things like that. This guy definitely did not, but you couldn't believe his sense of composition and finding images that could speak to anybody.
So what I'm hearing is that it wasn't necessarily, it's you teaching. So the camera became the tool, it became the conduit. It wasn't necessarily your vision or your photos. It's your trade. So what's really interesting is everybody assumes that it has to be your pictures, but it's also you're teaching, you're educating, and you're helping people find a voice. So that, thank you, because I was stuck in going, what are other ways we can give back? And it's for you, you're educating people, you're giving people the power and the tools to actually take that step forward. So that's amazing. Sue, can you have any other examples in terms of other ways people can give back besides, outside of the, Giving Tuesday, let's give money, outside of that, like using.
Well, as far as like what, as far as photography, that's the whole thing. Like whatever job that I'm doing, the thing that's most satisfying for me, and that's why this extends to what I'm doing with the movement called Glam for Good, is that when I make somebody happy, feel good about themselves, like they're like, "Oh my God, I really love that picture you took of me. It makes me so happy." That is what it's all about. It's like, people making, helping people look good or feel good is, something we all need. And I think as a photographer, you can do that. That's something you can do, to anyone at any, yeah, there's a whole other thing where it can be exploitive, but, it's really, with men and women, if you can approach, like, what can you do with your photography that will make other people happy, brighten their day? Well, it's just, there's, teaching them is one way you can do it, shooting them, doing the whole process around shooting them, it's, it's, I think.
The big takeaway I'm getting from you both is it's giving them a sense of acknowledgement. Michael, they're feeling heard. They're feeling like people want to help them. And then in turn, you, Sue, and your group are, acknowledging them and showing them who they are. I've listened to Jeremy Cowart, which, his help portrait, and it's just seeing people that have never been photographed before, seeing how beautiful they are, getting just, it's not always about the mirror reflection. It's about that portrait, because I believe the photograph or even an illustration, but I think, really captures another layer of the soul that sometimes we miss because we have, the individual has so many things going on in their head when they look in the mirror, but that the portrait really captures it. So, all right. So, what if someone came, that's listening to this, what if someone's, interested in, starting up their own nonprofit or interested in getting involved? Like, what would you guys say the steps are? Michael, you said you were approached, but you've been doing this for so long. That's why I reached out to you. Is that what are the steps to even like go, I think I want to help, but what do I do? Like, what would you recommend? You can start, Michael.
Wow, yeah. I've really been asking myself that question for about 20 years, and honestly, I had a professor when I was pretty young, and this guy Jerry Birchfield, who was incredible, and he's not around anymore. But he said this thing. He used to do a lot of performance art and all kinds of installation work that I would help him with. But this incredible thing that he did, it's hard to put in words, but one of the takeaways for me was, he said, thinking that as an artist you can do something to help society is like giving a frozen turkey to a homeless person. And so that always stuck with me. And I actually talked about it with one of these homeless guys that I befriended, and I said, we want to help, we don't know what to do, and so they want to have a voice, they want to be able to do something, and so you kind of meet in the middle, and when the possibilities sort of become limitless,
but how do you even find? I mean, like, you kind of have this little, I have a friend who floats for life, and she started a nonprofit for Float for Life. She wants to save the ocean through her trade, and it really started to get me thinking that it doesn't matter what your trade is, it can get attention, but so you can go start a nonprofit, but what if you don't want to go start a nonprofit? Like, how do you even go to think about finding a nonprofit and then introducing yourself saying, I want to help? Because again, we know there's pro bono projects that pay in advertising, but let's talk about the nonprofits that you can just go and volunteer. Like, what would be the first step, that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I'm in Orlando right now. I'm on an advertising job, and right. Obviously I'm in a hotel, but those are the jobs that we do, and I do editorial, great stuff that pays the bills. But there are tons of startups, nonprofits that need creativity, that need messaging, and that need visual assets. If you think of your work as that and not just photography, you realize how powerful it is. So where do you want to take that power? And for me, it's always been things that I'm passionate about, and I've done all kinds of projects that have failed, and I think that's what's important, is that you keep trying, right? And so not all nonprofits get international media like this. You try to get media attention for your cause, but there's so many things, and there's so little time that we have anymore. We have very short attention spans, so you've got to get that message out. So you just keep trying, and I think, we underestimate how much power we have, and so you've got to use that power wisely. And of course, when you're working on jobs that you're not necessarily passionate about, that's where you can draw the line. But it's important to have that balance. It always has been for me, and whether or not every project is a complete success, I know at the end, I made something, I created something, I'm doing something, moving forward, and I think that's what we all have to do. And if you get into a rut, that you just sort of work your way out of it and find something. There are there are all kinds of groups that would love your help, and as long as it's not for work and they're trying to use you and things like that, I think, again,
well,
that's what artists
underestimate. Let's be real, right?
It's about value, right?
Yeah, I mean, the point is that, I think you have to find something that really identify what is it. If you want to, like, I was asked to do this, so I was brought in, to this movement, and I'm so grateful, beyond grateful for that, for the experiences that I've had have been mind-blowing. But I think that if you're a photographer and you have to really think about we all have in our brains, what are those things that really you are moved by and that you really wish that you could help. I think that you can, with photography, help almost any cause. Like, it's just the power of imagery and the imagery that all of these nonprofits need in order to help other people. The imagery is huge for all these nonprofits. So I think that if you are passionate about something and you want to explore some subject matter that really moves you to want to help, I think I would just, you could even just do the project on your own and bring it to a nonprofit and show them as a spec piece. This is the kind of imagery that I'm doing with this subject matter, and you help these people, let me get involved. I mean, the reality is if it's free, you know, you can get it pretty much. But I think that it would be it would be important to sort of explore it on your own maybe, but also again, like what Michael's saying, find what you're passionate about, and you know, seek those organizations out.
So you both are saying basically figure your passion out first and then go knock on the doors of these nonprofits second. Okay, that's really good. Now, in terms of time commitment, can you guys be a little bit raw and it just, you know, if in a year, how much have you guys given? Let's say 2015, we're coming to the end, right? How much time have you given to nonprofit? And I'm kind of throwing this out there, so you guys really haven't had an answer. But I mean, when I was president, and it was a volunteer position, I was running a full consulting firm at the time. I was giving at least 20 hours a week. So, for you guys, what are you guys? I know it was crazy. I had no children, mind you, but like what kind of time commitment? Because people listening are either single parents, they have kids, or they're running a full-time advertising career. Like, what kind of time commitment have you guys personally experienced?
I mean, for me, it depends on the project, but I try not to overcommit, and that's why I say I limit myself to 1 or 2 pro bono projects a year, because I can dig in and find these blocks of time in between, the other projects. So again, it's about the balance, and so I wouldn't say it's an hours per week kind of a thing, but more like chunks of time. I'm also a national director for ASMP, and that takes a fair amount of time. I've been on the board now for yeah, it's giving back. It really, it's volunteer, and I think people think that we draw some sort of salary from that, but yeah, no, we don't, and it's a lot of work. But we have quarterly meetings, and so technically that's another thing that I do. But yeah, I try not to get too overcommitted, because then you also let down other people. You've got to manage expectations.
That's good. Sue, what about you? Have you found time commitment?
Well, because I'm working with the organization it's not for profit, but it partners with, not for profit organizations. So sometimes I'm paid a little bit of money. Sometimes I take no money. But I've done like maybe 10 or 12 projects this year. I've been doing it for 3 years. Like every year I work with the Bob Woodrow Foundation, photographing the caregivers for the vets who've been wounded. Like there's, and that maybe someone will foot the bill for my expenses or something. But usually these are sometimes 12 to 14-hour days. Sometimes I travel. But I
10 projects, 14-hour days. There's the math right there. I mean, so you kind of look at it.
Like whatever, but the woman who started the organization is also a single parent, Mary Alice Stevenson, and she and our kids are the same age, so we can sort of get someone to, take care of our kids where we go Glam for good. But
that's not hindering you. Being a single parent, being a rock star, I have to say, and just that's not hindering you from giving back. I really want to cut down the barrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing. Yeah.
So I think the big thing is, what is the payback that you have seen, Sue, professionally and personally from giving back?
Yeah, I mean, I have seen and worked with women that and children that are that have died after I've worked with them. I've also worked with women who, in the moment, or who are also living in homeless shelter, who in the moment have literally looked me in the eyes and cried and said, "Oh my God, I've never felt. Thank you so much for being here and making me feel fabulous today and like a star." And yeah, it's happened time and time again, and that's what it's like. People don't understand or really, but realize how empowering bringing fashion and beauty and glamour to a woman is. We all love it, and when you do give that type of treat to someone who's really never had anything like that ever come into their lives, and to have them just be so overjoyed, it's really, it makes it all. Then you just want to do that, like.
Yeah.
So it's touched you personally, and you've seen how it's impacted people. How is it? I mean, like, again, we're going to go back. We're artists.
You know what? I think karma. I just got a book deal. I just finished my first book, but the book deal came last year out of the blue. Maybe that's because I've been doing some of this for over 3 years. This other, yeah. Hey, man, karma. Like.
I mean, you work on O Magazine behind the scenes. You're doing different things to that things are people are recognizing you and you're surrounded by great people.
I shoot Ms. Winfrey every month, and it's actually she met me through Glam for Good, actually.
Oh, that professionally has helped you. So I wanted to turn that around because sometimes we're very humble. But same for you, Michael. What have you personally? How has it personally impacted you and professionally impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say personally, it's deeply moving when you break preconceived notions and you learn. I mean, I think we're still learning, and that's what's exciting for me. And so if you dig a little bit deeper into a subject, you uncover sort of new discoveries and. But it's amazing to see the empowerment that we're talking about happen, and you see people's self-esteem jump tremendously because you're giving them this this attention, and so for me that's really rewarding, and I think other creatives appreciate that when we do good things with our power, and I think that does matter, and I think. Other creatives respect you for that, and they see what are you doing with your downtime. If you're kind of only just goofing off and like everybody else on Instagram, it's like you're but to go a little deeper and because we all do that, but to create some other beauty, some other project that just does something bigger than you. I mean, that's really what's amazing is that if you can get involved in things that are bigger than you, it also is empowering, and I mean, I would say not necessarily, you don't have to necessarily go knock on somebody's door, some nonprofit, because oftentimes they reach out to you, but these days we can publish anything we want, and so we have a tremendous amount of power to take a project and start it yourself, and it doesn't always work out where you get tons of media attention, but that's okay, because it's still, if it's important to you, that's probably why you got into this, right? I mean, I think all photographers, we started, making pictures when we were really young, and it was exciting, and we just wanted to create something. So we forget that we don't always have to do that for somebody else. And so I think it's, again, fine art can be very selfish, and you can do things for you, but then there's the other stuff that we do where we're doing it for others. Yeah.
I'm very inspired, guys, because I think I know we're coming to an end, but one of the last questions I wanted to ask, and I was even asking myself this morning because I've been involved in nonprofit throughout the years, and what's the one thing that we should share to people watching this and listening? Like, what's that one last thing you want to say to your peers about giving back, whether it's a warning. One of my things was I learned the best volunteers were the volunteers that actually said no sometimes, and I would think, but you have to, like, you kept saying a word, boundary, Michael. You said it a couple times about balance and not giving too much or over-promising. So that was kind of the thing that I wanted to come to the table with that I knew was a lesson, but what can you guys share, or what's that one last message you want to say to everybody listening? I'll start with you, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, use your resources wisely. So we have a tremendous amount of resources at our fingertips, and so there have been times where I've had to get something covered by someone else, and I'll reach out to another photographer and bring them in if I can't do something for another charity or something, but yeah, I would say that realize that you often can't do it yourself, and I think photographers, we're still photographers. We're trained to just sort of, if we see something, we shoot it and we grab our little camera and we go. But when you start working in motion, it's like these big groups of people, different departments, and so it's obviously with nonprofits it can be very grassroots, but also you end up working with these huge bureaucracies sometimes, and there's a tremendous amount of collaboration. So I think really that's what we have to focus on more now as photographers, is the collaboration. And so really understand that it's a lot. It has a lot to do with your network, the resources that you have, and how you pool those resources, because it's all about collaboration these days. I mean, we can't do everything ourselves.
Great. That was not an answer I was looking for, and it's so perfect. So thank you. That was great. Sue, what would be your last message going out to your peers?
Well, that's really interesting. That was really a great, definitely thing to say. It's collaboration, because what I'm doing with Glam for Good, I'm just such a small part of a huge collaborative team that is, working towards empowering women. It's not only through photography, it's through, collaborating with other artists, other who are stylists, hairstylists, makeup artists, videographer. There's often a whole team that is collaborative towards the goal. But basically, I would say though that any photographer can. It's really right now with photography, with Instagram and social media and Facebook, you can explore any subject matter, help anybody with your photography, and get it out there. There's like nothing,
So it's limitless.
It's limitless, and so it doesn't have to be partnering with an org. It doesn't have to be anything about just like use your craft to, to speak about something that you feel really passionate about that other people should be listening to.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time, because this is giving back too, so I appreciate it. But I hope whoever's listening today, you feel inspired, you feel motivated to join a nonprofit. Please feel free to email us if you email me personally if you want to have an idea or brainstorm, because I just feel like if I can help someone get out there more, I think that would be great. But I hope you're motivated by these two wonderful individuals who have given so much of their time to give back through their trade, and I hope that you'll do the same. So thank you for joining us in 2016. I hope you can make the time, whether how little or how big, it doesn't matter. You will impact someone. So thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a wonderful new year and has time to give back. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, guys. I got to go do a tech scout now.